Orange as they take a 2-goal lead, 4:27 to go in the third quarter.
Spallina closing in on that #1 all-time point spot for Syracuse. When Duke needed a spark, it turned to its leading scorer as well. Blue Devils midfielder Ben Johnston's 30th goal this year made it a one-score game in the period's final minute.
A good 50 yards away from Cage, with Dwan on him. Approaching the defensive third, down the left alley, shot, get past McCool, and finds the back of the net. Ben Johnston is inevitable. 14-13, Syracuse leads, 43 seconds to go.
Well, the third quarter ended with that, and whilst Duke trailed in the fourth quarter, Syracuse barely wasted any time to start the frame. Orange attackman Peyton Anderson scored his third goal in the opening minute of the quarter.
He sprints down, middle of the slot to the right side. Pass off for Anderson. The lefty ripper goes! Peyton Anderson, his first career hat trick to extend the Orange lead to 2, just 30 seconds into the fourth quarter.
Not the last time I'm going to be calling Peyton Anderson's name either. Spoiler alert here on Orange Overtime. With Duke trailing in the fourth quarter for the first time this whole year, Blue Devils midfielder, who else? Max Sloat turned up the heat. The senior's second straight hat trick brought Duke back within 1.
As he skips fields to Max Sloat, who sprints down the right side, looks to uncork, swims inside, the shot, the goal! Max Sloat makes it look easy. The hesitation, the twirl in the middle, and the lefty pop in for the goal. Brings this back to a one-score game just over a minute into the fourth quarter.
Duke had one final chance to force overtime, but shot itself in the foot. Blue Devils midfielder Thomas Delgado committed a violation to turn it over to the Orange in the last few seconds.
Ben Johnston has it, guarded by the Tewaaraton watchlister Billy Dwan. And a violation on Duke. Thomas Delgado pushed off. Syracuse has it. Less than 20 seconds to go in the game. A brutal error from the bench player Thomas Delgado.
Brutal error doesn't matter. That was all she wrote. Syracuse survived its highest scoring shootout this year and came out on top.
Syracuse knocks off Duke for the second straight time in an old-fashioned Texas shootout. 16-15, your final. Number 5 Syracuse takes down number 6 Duke.
Good old-fashioned. Syracuse improves to 9-2 with a statement win inside the Dome. And if you want to go back to that old-fashioned, Western-style shootout, then the guy with the holster, the dude that was ready to get it done for Syracuse all game long, Peyton Anderson, finishes with his first ever hat trick and 5 points, and that's why he's my WAER player of the game. Anderson gets it done, number 88. Yes, it's not the senior class this time around that it seemed like it almost always is this season. Of course, Joey Spallina, awesome, Roa, Thompson, but this time around, it's Peyton Anderson with his 5-point performance, 3 goals, a couple of assists on just 3 shots as well. Efficient, and Anderson is our WAER player of the game. Number 5 Syracuse takes down number 6 Duke, 16-15. A big reason why is, of course, Peyton Anderson. All right, we are just about over here on Orange Overtime. The double overtime, though, is just a couple minutes away, so don't go anywhere until we get it over to our guys Dan Shalom and Cole Purvis, though. A few things to tidy up. Our next broadcast is next Saturday on April 4th. It's number 5 Syracuse taking on number 4 North Carolina. Another men's lacrosse ACC tilt, top 5. Couple of great squads. Syracuse, of course, now 1-0 in the ACC. Can it improve to 2-0? Well, we'll find out in a week. McClure Remodeling Countdown to Face-Off is at 1:30 next Saturday. Game time is at 2. A couple of thank yous. Milo Hoffman, our wonderful producer, Alex Burstein pressing all the right buttons on engineer. Jack DiNapoli running radio replay. And, of course, our entire WAER sports desk, who spent pretty much the whole Saturday today grinding away, making sure everything behind the scenes works out here on 88.3. Thanks so much. Orange Overtime, just about done. It's Drew Alba saying so long, but we still got a lot more action. It's the double overtime up until 5:30 here on WAER. Feel free to call in and talk to our guys Dan and Cole at 315-443-2011. All right, without a further ado, Syracuse takes down Duke 16-15. Dan, Cole, Syracuse gets it done. A close one, though. What do you guys got?
Certainly, Drew. Syracuse gets it done, like you mentioned, 16-15. A quick dot here today because of all the scoring. And, Cole, that was really the story. Syracuse, it went down to the wire, but Luke Roa delivered when he needed it, and the Orange get it done.
Yeah, fast-paced game, an absolute shootout between these two teams. The scoring today seemed contagious, but I'll tell you what, a real interesting final minute, kind of anticlimactic. Duke with an opportunity to tie the game in the final minute, but then an illegal screen called on Tomas Delgado gives the Orange the ball back, and they hold on for another win, continuing to stack up these victories over ranked opponents.
Syracuse is certainly not going to complain about that anticlimactic finish. The Orange get things done 16-15. That is 6 wins in a row for SU. We have you up until 5:30. Our reporter, Timmy Weiss, will join us from the Dome to break it all down. It's the double overtime, and it starts right now.
The game may be over, but our coverage on WAER rolls on. We're breaking down all the highs.
Pass in front, working through traffic. Hiltz ends it! Pure elation in the JMA Wireless Dome. Owen Hiltz, catch, shoot, score, and advance.
The shot wide. Eric Bolivar missed the target. The ball trickles out of bounds. And Syracuse holds on 9-8. It's all over. And for the first time in 9 years, Syracuse is the last team standing in the ACC.
And the lows.
For the first time in program history, Harvard hands Syracuse a loss. The Crimson crawl back from the jaws of defeat. Syracuse, with its closest shot at a championship in over a decade, gets sent home after a 14-8 loss to the Terrapins in the semifinals of the NCAA tournament.
While bringing you the hottest takes along the way.
You need to stick to your basics on offense. If you get an open look, fire it. You don't have to do a little razzle-dazzle. You don't have to do a spin. Just shoot it. Games like that, you're not going to get a Jimmy McCool 18 safe performance every time. You're not going to get these bad turnovers that Syracuse calls. Like 6 calls turnovers isn't going to happen in every single contest, and you can't sort of rely on that. It's going to be really difficult to get that sort of production every game without a response.
There was a calming sense around this team, and that's what you want from a top team who has championship aspirations. You have to know how to close out games like we've been preaching nonstop, and they did that. This is where teams separate themselves from the okay teams to the great teams, and Syracuse did that today. It's plain and simple.
Get your voice heard by calling 315-443-2011 or check out our YouTube and X at WAER Sports Talk. It's the double overtime, and it starts right now.
Welcome into the double overtime. Dan Shalom with you alongside Cole Purvis after number 5 Syracuse takes down number 6 Duke 16-15. We have you up until 5:30 here on the double overtime. Call in. Let us know what you thought about the game. 315-443-2011 or interact with us on Twitter and YouTube at WAER Sports Talk. A quick double overtime today, but that was because of all the scoring. And Cole, I feel like we need to start in that final minute. You alluded to it just a little bit earlier. Luke Roa with a huge goal. Duke, a humongous opportunity at the end of the game, but just kind of squandered it away.
Yeah, a back-and-forth game throughout, and Duke was right there at the end. But I'll resume to about 3 minutes left in this game when there was an unnecessary roughness, a non-releasable penalty called on Aiden McGuire that I thought initially was going to kill Duke's chances because Luke Roa comes in and has another beautiful step-down goal. The offense was humming today as it has been most of the season, and SU takes a 2-goal lead, but then Duke comes right back down and scores, and then has the opportunity, gets the ball back, forces a turnover, and as I alluded to earlier, the illegal screen called on Tomas Delgado. So a couple of tough breaks for Duke. SU almost gave it away.
And that was also a point where you thought Duke was cooked anyway, because after that face-off with 40 seconds left to go, John Mullen won it.
Yeah.
Syracuse had the ball.
They just have to hold on to the ball.
And then, Duke forces that turnover. They take a timeout. They get the offense set up. And then Thomas Delgado, illegal screen. I mean, that's a scenario, in my opinion, where you're like, oh, as much as, you're relieved from a Syracuse perspective, you hate to see the ref call that in that scenario.
Yeah.
And for it to end that way. The Orange certainly are not going to complain about that. They'll take the win all day. But Duke had a chance, and they should have converted on it.
I mean, the rules are the rules. I understand the whole, you can't call that in that situation. It's a thing all across sports. But, I mean, Duke, this has to sting. You did the heavy lifting to give yourself a chance in that final minute. You forced the turnover. You scored down by 2 to cut it to just 1. And then it ends on a penalty. I mean, that has to be so frustrating for this Duke team, and a team that, hasn't played the strongest schedule this season. We'll get into that a little bit later. SU was really their biggest test and a huge opportunity for the Blue Devils to come into the Dome and silence the crowd, but the Orange hang on by just a goal and continue to rack up these wins, close wins against ranked opponents. It's great to see if you're Gary Gates' squad.
And mind you, Duke was undefeated coming into this game as well at 8-0, and sure, they may not have played the caliber of opponents that Syracuse had up to this point, but for the Orange to still take down a team that beat them in the regular season last year, sure, Syracuse got the better of them in the ACC tournament, but to start off ACC play this way this year is a huge confidence builder from the top down.
Absolutely, and a team that SU lost to Duke last season, so avenging that defeat, of course, got him back in the ACC championship, but the regular season tilt between the two was a 4-goal Duke win, so the Blue Devils beat the Orange comfortably. For SU to come back and win this game today was excellent, but I thought the scoring today was really contagious. I thought both teams had to match the urgency of one another, and you really saw that today. Neither team really took the ball deep into the shot clock. They were firing shots off early and often, and in the first half, an unbelievable 10-9 the score after 2 quarters. I mean, when do you see that? That's just a sign of an elite offense. And to me, you can criticize the goalies and all 3 goalies that played in this game, as Duke had 2, a little swap late in the first half. All 3 goalies were sub 500 save percentage, but I more credit that to the fact that the shooters on these teams were so precise, putting the ball right in the top corner. I mean, you couldn't have placed some of these shots better, and it was on both sides. I mean, obviously, everyone likes to talk about Joey Spallina for Syracuse, but for Duke, an incredible game for them as well. Delgado, who we mentioned, gave the game away with the penalty, but he had 2 goals, his first multi-goal game of the season, and a lot of these Blue Devil scorers were just shooting the ball right past Jimmy McCool in really great spots.
One that was really standing out to me was Max Sloat. I mean, he put the game 1 away for Duke down the stretch. He finished with 4 on the afternoon. He was disgusting, beating McCool low to low all day long. And you just mentioned the scoring. I mean, Syracuse and Duke last year in the ACC championship, the game overall was a 9-8 game. Yeah. And it was 10-9 at the half.
Wild.
I mean, you barely see that. And we saw last game, Syracuse against Georgetown, blowing the Hoyas out of the water at the break as well. Seems like this offense, they've just been starting super hot the last few games, and it's really willed them to victory.
Yeah, I mean, Syracuse is just peppering the net. 42 shots today for the Orange, 51 for Duke, so there were just a lot of shots on goal today, and both goaltenders were really tested early on. But I think the most impressive...
A lot of those shots were quality, too. It wasn't just shooting to shoot the ball.
I mean, 26 shots on goal for Duke and 27 for Syracuse, so testing these keepers. And I think for the SU offense, a big reason for this win streak that they're on, which has now reached 5 games, is they've really settled into a lineup. For the beginning of the season, it was a lot of switching off between Michael Leo and Peyton Anderson. One would be in the attack one day, one would be in the midfield, and then they would swap for the next game. They've kind of found their bread and butter with Leo at attack and Anderson in the midfield. And Anderson was excellent today. He had a great stat line today. with 3 goals and 2 assists. That's his first hat trick of the career.
It's a career high for him, too, in points.
I think he's just a really talented player. He's a big physical guy who has an electric shot, and he adds a really nice element to this offense.
The interesting thing about Peyton Anderson was that in that Air Force game, he was MIA, and he really picked it up after Denver. He had the career-high 4 points. He responded again against Georgetown, and then today he follows it up with 5. It seems like, and Gary Gates talked about it, that he's just building up his confidence and is really feeling himself in this SU system. He's only a sophomore. Right now. That's the thing that people have to remember, too. He's kind of turning into a Sam English type of player for Syracuse, which is what the Orange desperately need in the midfield right now. And the way he moves the ball around is just disgusting. I mean, he can pass, he can shoot. This is a guy that can really do it all and is assisting Syracuse on the offensive end. And I think, honestly, stepping into a role that Trey Deer would have had this season if he wasn't injured. So Syracuse and Peyton Anderson's efforts cannot be understated.
And when you talk about having players like Joey Spallina and Finn Thompson, a guy like Peyton Anderson is going to be left wide open in the slot a lot of the time.
Too many people to cover.
You can't do that. And teams are going to have to start game planning for Peyton Anderson going forward. Started the game with an incredible one-handed scoop
You
pass.
like that? Yeah, just kind of flipped it over.
Yeah, driving down the right alley, scoops it over to Finn Thompson, who finishes it home. He has so much creativity, and that is contagious on this SU team because you talk about Joey Spallina, one of the most creative players as well. That's going to rub off on the other guys on this team, finding different ways to score, and definitely a risky move, a one-handed pass. You don't see that very often, but he executed it to perfection, and I love what he's doing for this offense.
He just is so physical. He can get down. He doesn't care to body up anyone. He'll just go in there, take it, and if the shot's not there, he'll just find the open man for the assist. That's the great part about
he
Peyton
had 2
Anderson's
assists
game.
again. He had 2 assists today, so he's not just a shooter. He can dish it off as well. And then the Denver game 2 games ago had another 2 assists. So he's a really multifaceted offensive player.
Finding his game for sure. What'd you think about Syracuse's offense today? Call in, let us know, 315-443-2011. Interact with us on Twitter and YouTube at WAER Sports Talk. Dan Shalom, Cole Purvis talking Syracuse's 16-15 win over Duke in the Dome today. And we got Mark from Mattydale on the line wanting to talk about Syracuse's performance today. Mark, what do you got?
Hi, guys. Well, guess what? The outstanding Orange onslaught creates a 4D game. Duke defeated, departing back to Durham. That's a great story for me today.
I certainly love it. What do you think stood out about Syracuse's offense, and what have you seen that made it look so good today?
Well, we have multiple scorers, and they're patient, and they just pass the ball around trying to get the open man. And, it was a tough game, but, our goalie and our defense, they stopped them enough. We won by 1. That's all you got to win by. And then Joey Spallina gets 300 points, so there were a lot of highlights of the day.
I love that you said you only have to win by 1 because it's true, and Gary Gate reminds the media of it at almost every press conference when SU is just escaping some of these games. And obviously there's no shame in only beating the number 6 team in the country in Duke by 1. But Syracuse just continues to stack wins. You also mentioned, Mark, the luxury that this team has with so many different scorers. And that's why I was talking about Peyton Anderson being the beneficiary of some of these Joey Spallina passes. I mean, you look down the lineup, just so many guys that can hurt you. When you talk about a Finn Thompson, of course, Spallina's the star. Peyton Anderson, Luke Roa had that insurance goal that was big in the fourth quarter today. So many guys that can hurt you, and I can't think of really many other teams in the country that have as deep of a cast of characters that can score the ball, Dan.
Yeah, that's what you want. It creates defensive problems for the other teams we play.
Mark, just one last thing for you here. Do you think this team has national championship aspirations? It was basically the same roster last year with Sam English and Owen Hiltz, them no longer with the team.
I know, but when guys leave, you got to, get replacements. I think so, and, we got to wait till the playoffs start. But right now, nobody's burst our balloon yet. So until that happens and if we keep advancing in victories, then, we got to get on a locomotive and keep it going. The Orange locomotive, full steam ahead.
Well, The Orange Locomotive is certainly chugging. Mark, thank you so much for the call. Syracuse winners of 6 in a row. And he talked about the offense. I mean, one play that stood out for me in particular today was that one side of the field to the other, the Joey Splita goal where Jimmy McCool picks it up, outlets to Jordan Kittleberger in the midfield. He finds Splina, step down, shot, score. I feel like that just encapsulated the way this Orange offense is playing right now. It's not one player. It's team lacrosse, and that's why they're winning these games.
Yeah, I think Jimmy McCool, a great part of his game is the outlet passes that he makes. And you mentioned that the pass to Kittleberger, and Syracuse is by far the most dangerous when they're out and running in transition. And when you have the speed of a Joey Splina running downhill, it's extremely hard to stop. And I think that if Syracuse can, get saves from Jimmy McCool and then outlet the ball quickly, that's when the offense is going to be humming and it's going to be at its best. And we certainly saw that today.
I think something interesting as well for Syracuse over these last few games, and Cole, you were out there in Colorado. You saw both of those games.
Yeah.
Is that Syracuse builds up a big enough lead where they can handle these pushes late into the game from these opposing teams. It just seems like they get off to the hot start, but then inevitably the opposing team creeps its way back into the game and things get tight down the stretch.
Yeah, and that's going to be the key going forward this season is limiting the runs of the other teams. SU is typically, like you said, building a comfortable lead. If they lead by, say, 5 or 6 goals, you got to limit the runs from the other teams to 2 or 3. You can't let it balloon to 4 or 5 and all of a sudden you're in a super close game. So they have to kind of weather the storm. And when you're playing these top 10 opponents, and SU is going to see a lot of them going forward here as the ACC is arguably the strongest conference in college lacrosse, and then going into the playoffs, these teams are going to respond. They're going to punch you in the mouth. They're going to go on runs. And it's just about limiting that to the best of your ability, holding those runs to 2 or 3 goals and not 4 or 5 consecutively that really puts you in a bad spot.
Syracuse did a good job of that today. The Orange taking down the Blue Devils 16-15. Talking all about it here on the double overtime up until 5:30. Dan Shalom with you alongside Cole Purvis. Call in. Let us know what you thought. 315-443-2011. Interact with us on YouTube and Twitter at WAER Sports Talk. Now, a part of today's game we have not addressed yet was Jimmy McCool in the cage. He let up 15 goals today, and it really wasn't the best performance from him. There were a few that you really thought he should have had back and just didn't seem the sharpest today.
So that's now 3 games of the last 4 that he's been sub 500 in save percentage, and his weakness is these low-to-low shots. He can stop the shots that are up high by his shoulders. He can put his body on the line, but the question is whether or not he has the quickness to get down to the turf to stop some of these worm burners.
You
like
saw
they call
a couple of the shots today that actually ended up in his jersey. He's
Yeah.
more than fine eating the shots up top, but you mentioned it, and that's Max Sloat down the stretch. Beat Jimmy McCool low to low, and that's how Duke kind of crept back into this game. He has trouble getting down low, kind of like in hockey when a goalie gets into the butterfly. That kind of seems to be a problem for him, and he can't get down there quick enough.
And, of course, teams are going to look at that and game plan for that and try to test McCool with some of those worm burners. So it's up to him to kind of adjust and maybe improve that part of his game because it hasn't been the most consistent stretch for McCool. I thought he salvaged the scoreline a little bit in that 4th quarter with some big saves down the stretch. But after 3 quarters, he was sub 400 in save percentage. Duke was just really getting these shots past him with ease, and it was hurting Syracuse to the point where they almost lost the game. But fortunately, Duke's goaltending wasn't great either, and the Blue Devils made a switch late in the first half.
That was surprising to me.
That was very interesting. Patrick Jamieson was pulled for Henry Blake, a bold move. Of course, Jamieson was struggling, but Blake didn't do too hot either. He also stopped less than half of his shots, so a really interesting decision there by the Blue Devils coaching staff.
It just seemed like all around the offenses were just too much for anyone on the defensive end. And we've got Kerry from Baldwinsville who wants to talk about this team's focus coming in today. Kerry, what do you got? Oh, and actually, Kerry not on the line, so we'll go back to our talk about the goalies here. Now, I was interested about this, Cole, because it's not like, it was, Jimmy McCool's playing amazing, and the Duke goalies are playing really bad, so let's make a switch. You could have made the argument that Syracuse could have switched out McCool for Michael Ippoliti as well.
but also these coaches see their guys in practice every day, and if the Duke coaching staff is looking at Henry Blake and saying, this guy could get some run in some actual games, and if Jamison struggles, we're going to make that switch. So maybe they just had the confidence in their backup goalkeeper that SU's coaching staff doesn't have in its backup, so they bring out Henry Blake.
The interesting thing about Henry Blake is he didn't play a game last year with Ohio State, transferred from Ohio State.
Well, they have one of the best goalies in the nation in Caleb Fiok.
That is true. And that he didn't play last season, and he only played a couple of times in 2024, so he really has not seen that much game action. An interesting call from the Blue Devils to throw him in there, and sure, I really don't think it made any difference. Like if you compare the two, it was basically the same.
And you have to wonder late in the game, do they go back to the starter? But it also is kind of a bad look to change back and basically say, we made the wrong decision. Let's go try to right our wrongs and bring the starter back in there. So they ride with Blake the rest of the game. And look, both guys, Blake saved only 40% of his shots today. Jamison was just above that mark at 42%. So both goalies struggled. And look, good offense is most of the time going to beat good defense in the sport of lacrosse. And you saw two of the best offensive units in the sport go at it today. And that's a big reason for it. So I think for either of these teams, you're not panicking about the goaltender situation. It's more about you faced a juggernaut of an offense on the other side, but definitely something to watch going forward as McCool hasn't had the best stretch.
I was going to say, is it fair to say that Jimmy McCool is in somewhat of a slump right now? Coming into this game, he was still one of 6 goalies nationally to be top 20 in saves percentage, saves per game, and goals against average. So the potential's there. And it's not like Duke where Syracuse has played easy teams in the non-conference ahead of ACC play. McCool's been tested, and he showed up. But over these last couple of games, this is not the same Jimmy McCool that we saw from the beginning of the season, especially like in that Maryland game.
Well, I'll pump the brakes on that because he did save 12 of 17 shots against Georgetown. So he did have a good game the last time
against the Connor brothers, and those two are lethal as well.
So I don't think I'm hitting the panic button on Jimmy McCool quite yet. At the end of the day, he made the saves when it counted late in the game. I'm not completely panicking on him yet, but something to watch out for going forward.
I think the point where I would be nervous is if Syracuse is losing games because of Jimmy McCool's performance, and that has not happened yet. You can knock McCool however much you want, but over this 6-game winning streak, McCool has not lost them any of the games yet.
No.
That's the most important thing. And even in those games against Harvard, where they lost and Princeton, it was more the offense not showing up than Jimmy McCool. So he hasn't been a true problem yet for this team.
They don't need him to be perfect. And when you have the offense that they have, this team is not built through the goaltender. It's not like they rely on him to be the guy that goes out and wins the games. The real factor in whether or not SU is going to make a deep postseason run is not Jimmy McCool. It's about whether this offense can continue to play at a high level, because that's where SU has its most upside. So McCool just has to be solid. He has to bend but not break, stay around saving about half of his shots, and SU should be able to do enough offensively to win this game, and that's what we saw today as the Orange come out and score 16 goals against a top 10 opponent.
And you're right, Cole. They did just that. Duke was also number 2 in the nation for scoring defense coming into this game. So another accolade for the Orange. Syracuse takes down Duke 16-15. After this break here on the Double Overtime, our reporter Timmy Weiss will join us for here in studio to break down everything from this game from the Dome. You're going to want to stay right with us here on WAER.
There is a one-stop listen for everything Syracuse athletics.
Syracuse men's lacrosse had arguably maybe Gary Gates' best weekend ever as head coach.
The Ostrom Avenue podcast provides unique opinions plus exciting interviews from industry experts.
The voice of Syracuse men's lacrosse and Syracuse women's basketball as well. Tim Leonard, Javon Edmonds of Syracuse.com.
Check out weekly episodes and listen at WAER.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, I'm Larry Bousquet.
And I'm David Holstein, and we are 2 of the managing members of the Bousquet-Holstein Law Firm.
We're proud to support WAER because for both Bousquet-Holstein and WAER, giving back to the community is an integral part of who we are.
Just like WAER provides reliable news and entertainment for its listeners each day, our attorneys work to provide quality legal service to clients and support a variety of organizations that strengthen the fabric of our community.
Nothing there for him. Back to Splina at X. Quick pass in front. Behind the back shot. Finn Thompson. You betcha. Splina to Thompson. The trickery.
Welcome back to the double overtime here on WAER up until 5:30, chatting about number 5 Syracuse's 16-15 win over number 6 Duke. Cole Purvis alongside Dan Shalom here from our Ostrom Avenue studios. Voice your thoughts on this game. Call in at 315-443-2011. Also, make sure to interact with us on X at WAER Sports Talk. We've got a lot of content being pumped out behind the scenes, so go interact on there. Well, we've got another member of our crew in studio today, and a man who was at the game. Timmy Weiss joins us, taking in this one live from the Dome. And Timmy, what a game this was. SU escapes with a 1-goal win, and really an interesting final possession there for Duke, and that's where I want to start. Being in the Dome, what was it like to see that final possession and how it unfolded with Duke essentially losing the game from an illegal screen penalty?
You're right. It really was such a crazy sequence because the fact that it even got into that situation was pretty crazy because Syracuse made such a bad mistake to allow Duke to get the ball back and even have that opportunity. A lot of fans behind me actually in the crowd were really mad that Gary Gate didn't call a timeout on that possession.
I was surprised by that, Timmy. They had one in the pocket.
Exactly. So he could have easily just called that timeout and that whole situation wouldn't have even happened. Now, with that being said, it's so interesting that play happened because after the game, Coach Janowski for Duke actually said, from what we think, the SU defender pushed our guy and caused the penalty. Even officials make mistakes. So there it is from the head coach of the Blue Devils. He thinks it was a mistake.
That is an interesting take. And Cole and I were talking about this earlier. That is just a tough spot for the referee generally. You don't want to be the guy to call that and ruin the climactic moment.
Right, it was
in the
the
dome,
first
but
time
you got to
in
do
the
what you
game
got to do.
that call was made, and it's for me. If you're a Blue Devils fan, you have a right to be upset.
I mean, you can also though go back to the minute unreleasable penalty that Duke took at the 3-minute mark, where Luke Roa scored and punished them for that. You just want to talk about being disciplined overall. Duke could have saved itself from even getting to that scenario.
And it especially stings for Duke because they did all the work to have a chance to force that turnover, to get the ball back with under a minute, looking to tie the game, and then it just goes by the wayside by way of a penalty. But we are going to welcome in another caller. This is Lee from Mattydale, who wants to talk about Jimmy McCool. Lee, what you got?
Hey, I just think that you guys are giving Mr. McCool a little bit of a bad rap. He was left with a lot of one-on-ones. Our defense is not sliding, not where it should be. I know Johnny O was going a little crazy on the sidelines trying to get his guys in line, but
Lee, there was a lot of just one-on-one. You speak of the one-on-ones. I mean, there was a lot of times, though, where it was just a shot, not even like from, super close, probably 10, 15 yards out, where he just got beat low to low. I mean, for me, that's a Jimmy McCool thing and not a defense thing.
I don't know. You see a lot of missed slides, a lot of uncontested shots. They need to be stepping up a little bit more. That's all I'm saying.
What I will give you, though, is I think the fourth quarter from Jimmy McCool was much improved. He made some big stops in that fourth quarter, and that was a big reason why Syracuse won this game. McCool might not have had a good first 3 quarters, especially not good. Honestly, one of the worst games this season from him. But the fourth quarter, he showed up enough to make sure Syracuse could get a win.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm wondering, what do you think needs to be improved on the defensive end? Is it Riley Figueres? Is it Billy Dewan? Is it just this unit as a whole? Because Syracuse was just kind of getting exposed like they haven't by a Blue Devils offense. And sure, they still won the game, but this is the first time, except really in the last month and a half after those losses, where Syracuse's defense has looked a little bit shaky.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of just positioning. Like I said, it's the slides, a little bit slow. The midfield seems to really be struggling to get where they need to be.
All right, Lee, thank you for the time. Thanks for letting us know your thoughts. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, the Syracuse defense was certainly allowing Duke's attackers to get behind it, but also it's been a consistent theme throughout the career of McCool that he does struggle to stop these low shots. And so I think it's a mixture of both, and it contributed to I don't want to say a poor defensive effort because they came out and won, but still not great. I mean, Duke did tear them up at times.
It definitely was not great, and the fourth quarter was the only time that they looked good enough. Now, the only reason, though, that they looked good enough is because Duke didn't have enough possessions in that fourth quarter. John Mullen, single-handedly, in my opinion, made this Syracuse team win the game because of his performance in the second half. He went 4 for 5 on faceoffs in that fourth quarter. And Syracuse simply does not win this game if Mullen did not dominate at the faceoff circle. That made the whole difference because Duke couldn't get possessions. Syracuse didn't have to do as much on the defensive end because when they had to play defense, you guys have talked about it, Duke was getting a lot of space to have good looks.
Way too
and
much
it wasn't
space.
going well.
No, and you got to give John Mullen his flowers because he really did win this game for Syracuse, and there's no doubt about it. But overall, Timmy, it just kind of seemed like, and while the offense was humming, definitely down the stretch, in that fourth quarter, it seemed like Syracuse in the midfield and the defensive end just kind of got a little bit lethargic. They just seemed a little bit...
Defensively or offense?
Defensively, and in the midfield, defensively as well. Not on the offensive side. I'm not knocking the offense because they won Syracuse
the
the
end
game.
of the game particularly?
The end of the game, it just seemed a little bit sluggish down there. I mean, we've seen it now in the Denver game. You saw it against Georgetown, and sure, they held Duke scoreless from the 14-minute mark to 40 seconds left to go, but they are still letting teams back into this game. They're not finishing it.
I think you make a fair point because the one thing about that fourth quarter that I haven't mentioned is that Duke still had chances. And that's a little concerning because if they put a couple of those away, Syracuse loses this game. But Duke was finally missing their opportunities. They lost a little bit of their edge on offense, and so did Syracuse. Both teams lost their edge, their creativity that they had all game long. And Syracuse was a bit lucky that Duke didn't have that.
Yeah, the game tightened up a bit as it got later on into the game, certainly. 315-443-2011 is the number to call. Chatting up until 5:30 about number 5 Syracuse men's lacrosse's 16-15 victory over number 6 Duke. But going more into the Syracuse offense, or I guess the offense for both teams, for me, this is what you want to see out of a big-time college lacrosse game. You want to see fans show up to the stadium. They're going to want to see goals, and that's what we saw today. So as somebody who was in the Dome, I want to ask you about the crowd's reaction to the flurry of scoring that we saw in the first half. 10-9 after 2 quarters? That's pretty unbelievable.
Cole, I mean, this place was rocking. It really was because there was nothing not to be happy about. Syracuse was scoring so many goals, and as a fan, you feel so excited to see it. And
there's no better feeling than that crowd pop after a goal.
And I honestly, the one play I really want to point to is that play where Kittleberger got all the way up the field, rushed up on transition, and Spallina put it away in the back of the net. That was one of the loudest I've ever heard the Dome after a goal.
Yeah,
it was. I got like a jolt of energy when it happened. It was impressive, and I know that the Syracuse players get a lot of energy from that.
Looking bigger picture for a sport that's kind of more of a niche sport now, trying to break out and become more nationally relevant, that's what you want to see is a high-scoring game like this and plays like that. The Kittleberger to McCool goal are what's going to get the crowd all hyped up, and you love to see that from the Dome.
100%. And Timmy, you talk about the atmosphere, and maybe this had part to do with it, but in your eyes, you were there, you were in the Dome. What was up with that Duke goalie change? Why the switch? To me, it didn't really seem like it made much of an improvement. I was more confused about that than anything.
It definitely was interesting that they decided to make a decision like that, but Coach Janowski actually talked about that one after the game, and he said that, Patrick had played really well, which Patrick Jamison, that is the starter for Duke. He said he played really well all year, but he just wasn't seeing it right. And I guess that's how it is for goalies sometimes. I mean, Jimmy McCool, same case today for Syracuse. So I think that was really the big decision. And you could point a bit to the fact that Syracuse just was getting so much offense. You want something to change the narrative of the game in a way. I think maybe that could have played into it. They wanted some sort of energy shift to get Duke's defense to be able to defend against that Syracuse lethal offense today.
315-443-2011 is the number to call to voice your thoughts on this game. Also interact with us at WAER Sports Talk, talking about this game up until 5:30 here from our Ostrom Avenue studios. Joey Spallina closing in on the points record for Syracuse. Needs 6 to tie and 7 to take the lead. Might do it the next game. What did you see from him today, Timmy, in engineering this offense?
I was really impressed with him because he really looked like a leader of this offense today. He might not have had his most points this season in a game.
That was still pretty gross, though.
It
Come
was
on, in the
exactly.
ACC opener?
Exactly. And what impressed me about him is the different types of ways he was involved. Yes, we know he is very good at X and can distribute plays from there. But he also was moving, and he also was scoring on transition and in movement and getting away from defenders, individual efforts. His bag of tricks almost was
it's
so good.
It's growing
so deep.
deeper by the day.
Exactly,
basically.
yeah.
And I know our sidelines man, Nick Evans, for this game was talking about it on the broadcast. I was walking around Marshall Street a few hours before this game, and I saw so many just kids just wearing the 22. I mean,
everyone
Syracuse loves Joey Spallina.
Everyone in the crowd, all these kids keep shouting, Spallina, Spallina. After the game ends, Spallina's walking over towards the locker rooms, and all these kids are calling him, Joey, Joey, over here, over here. And, you know, why wouldn't you? If you're a kid for Syracuse rooting for this team.
I mean, he's the face
leader.
of Syracuse lacrosse, and
he's the
arguably
face of lacrosse.
the face of men's lacrosse, period, right now.
He might be. He might be.
And in terms of growing the game, nobody is contributing to that more than him, just with his play style and also things like that, embracing the crowd. Going on the road a couple of weeks ago on this 6-game road trip and getting to see Spallina interact with the fans was really eye-opening to me.
It's the same thing in Denver? I mean,
it was the same thing in Denver.
that are rooting for him.
Yeah,
still?
you talk
Wow.
about a 3 o'clock local time face-off at Air Force in Colorado Springs, and there were still people with the orange number 22 jerseys lining the fences after the game to try to get an autograph from Joey Spallina. It's really impressive the amount of reach that he has and the amount of things that he's doing to grow the
he's
sport.
Chasing another famous orange 22 in Mikey Powell right now, and he's getting very close.
He's getting close, and he's going to be there soon.
Do you think it can be next game, though, Timmy, against North Carolina?
Well, how many is he away right now?
It's 6. 6 to tie and
6 to
7 to pass. Right now.
I mean, I don't know. It's a big ask against a really good Tar Heels team, number 4 in the country right now. He definitely could, though. He definitely could.
You know he's going to want to as well.
You know he's going to want to.
He put up the 7 points against Princeton in the NCAA
What I will
tournament
say
last
is
year.
he's
done it before.
He's feeling it right now. The Orange offense is.
Do you think the Orange's success on offense, though, is just because he is playing well, or is the team as a whole finding it?
It's the team. The team is finally finding it. And there were so many questions earlier this season if the Syracuse offense had what it took. There was questions after that 7-goal performance against Princeton and 9 goals against Penn, 1 coming in overtime. Now, finally, the Syracuse offense looks back. I mean, that game against Georgetown, 18, same thing today, 16. The creativity, the way they're scoring on transition from X, individual efforts. Peyton Anderson today, individual efforts. Luke Roa on the man up. Syracuse, on the offensive side of things, is clicking right now.
And Spallina is getting the best of the players around him. If you want to be the best version of yourself as an offensive lacrosse player, play with Joey Spallina. And Peyton Anderson is really reaping the benefits of that now because he's being left wide open to just get his hands free and rip a shot and score, and to do that consistently. I mean, this team is absolutely humming on offense right now, and it's really exciting to see. And I love when you talk about the record, sometimes there's a little bit of a cloud hanging over your head when a player is reaching a record. It's a mental thing like, oh boy, I'm about to do it, and they might kind of slow down for a little bit. But it seems like this SU team is kind of checked out to all of the
off the field
noise.
He doesn't even seem like he's paying attention to the record throughout the media through the last few weeks. He hasn't talked about it really once.
They completely dismiss it. And Gary Gates said, well, it doesn't really matter that much to us because some of the guys played 3 years, some of the guys played 4 years. So it's not about like exactly who's the best player. So that's the approach that they're taking and kind of dismissing.
You know what's so interesting? We talked about how good Spallina was today. He actually just said in the post-game press conference, I didn't think I played particularly well. I knew I was close to that mark, talking about the 300 mark, but I just wanted to do whatever I could do to win.
Okay, so now
Amazing.
I like his chances on getting it next
Yeah, I think
weekend.
he's
If he
gonna
thinks
get
he
it.
didn't
If
play
you think
well
he didn't play
today,
well,
If this is bad,
are you kidding
wow.
me?
Oh boy,
He's pretty good today. So
watch
that's
out,
pretty
North
wild.
Carolina. But I think the fans would love to see him come back the next game versus Virginia and break the points record in the Dome, but we'll see. All right, well, that is going to do it for now. We'll take a quick break here on the Double Overtime talking about Syracuse men's lacrosse up until 5:30. We've got just under 10 minutes left here. And we want to thank Timmy Weiss for coming in. Timmy, thanks for all your contributions.
Thanks
and
for
hope
having
you had
me,
fun at the
guys.
Dome today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, we'll take a quick break. The Double Overtime continues on WAER right after this break.
By now, most of us are comfortable paying bills online. In fact, if I could auto-pay all of my monthly expenses, I'd probably do it. Now you can support WAER in this convenient paperless way with a sustaining membership. You choose an ongoing monthly gift amount and link it to a designated credit card. The payment automatically processes each month, so you don't have to worry about it. Hop online at WAER.org and set up your sustaining membership today. It's never been easier to support your public radio. Thank you.
Flips into X for Anderson. He wraps around crease, gives off Spallina. The shot scores! Joey Spallina rips it from the three-quarter slot, just 5 yards out from cage.
Number 5, Syracuse takes down number 6, Duke, 16-15. Dan Shalom with you alongside Cole Purvis here on the Double Overtime. Wrapping up shop, only 7 minutes left to go here on the Double Overtime. And Cole, that means it's time for our final words, so I'll give it over to you. Take it. What do you got?
Well, my final word is that the season starts now. Non-conference play is fun, but when you hit ACC play, arguably the best conference in college lacrosse, this is where things really start to heat up and you have to start peaking at the right time. And Syracuse showed that it is doing that today. The offense is playing spectacular. The goaltending could come around a little bit, but I'm confident that it will. And SU goes out and scores 16 points today against the number 6 team in the country. And look, non-conference play, you have to look at a lot of different factors because Syracuse challenged itself with a gauntlet of a schedule. The Orange have played 7 ranked teams up to this point in the season. Duke, coming into today, only played 2. Syracuse was its 3rd ranked game of the season. So Duke, although they were undefeated, played a vastly different schedule. Now everything's on the same playing field. You have ACC Powerhouse playing ACC Powerhouse, and these are the tune-up games for the tournament. And last year, SU struggled, losing its last 3 games to end off the regular season. The Orange have to flip that on its head now and get some momentum going into the playoffs, and they did that today. I think with Joey Spallina, once he gets this record out of the way, it might free up a little bit of pressure off of his shoulders, and this team I expect to cruise the rest of the season and make a statement, possibly go unbeaten in ACC play.
Well, we're just going to have to wait and see on that front. For my final word, it's that the Orange must win next weekend against the Tar Heels. And you might be thinking Syracuse is comfortable right now. They're 9-2. Things are going well. They don't need to win this game. If you turn the clock back to last year, Syracuse had won 6 games in a row, also in 2025. Then they played number 1 Cornell, got gut punched, and went on to lose the next 3 games before the ACC tournament. The Orange must get this to 7 in a row and keep this momentum rolling. They started 2-0 in ACC play last year with Virginia and Notre Dame. Their 2 losses in the ACC last year came to Duke and North Carolina. If Syracuse can flip that on its head and have the 2 wins against Duke and North Carolina, have Virginia and Notre Dame left to go, the Orange are going to be in an amazing spot here down the stretch. You zoom out a little bit. If Syracuse finishes 2-2 here in ACC play, they are going to play in the ACC tournament. They've practically guaranteed themselves in the NCAA tournament. Handle your business now so you don't need to worry about it later. That's something that Syracuse did not do last year, but if they do it this year, they'll be in a much more comfortable spot, and it will take the pressure off of this team down the stretch. That's what I got for you, Cole.
Yeah, UNC is going to be a real blockbuster matchup because the Tar Heels, unlike the Duke Blue Devils, have actually challenged themselves somewhat with the schedule. Only one loss, a 2-goal loss to Princeton, who is one of the best teams in the country. So we'll see if SU can bounce back from a team that they lost to last year towards the end of the regular season in ACC play and never ended up seeing in the postseason.
That was
so
a
we'll see how that
14-12
goes.
loss in the season finale at home for Syracuse, and that was a point where you kind of had to win one of the remaining 3 games between Cornell, Duke, and North Carolina to not put all the pressure on yourself in the ACC tournament. Now, ironically, they got it done in the ACC tournament, and it all worked out for the best because they got to the Final Four. But if you're Syracuse, kind of don't want to get to that point this year.
No.
Get it handled and don't worry about it.
And also playing on the road is another thing. It was kind of a stigma surrounding this team that they can't win on the road. Proved most people wrong with that 6-game road trip, going 4-2, trying to make it 5-2 away from the Dome this season with another win. Should be interesting to see how that pans out.
Why don't you go and get a dub on the road in the ACC?
Yeah.
That'll be a hard challenge, and we'll have that game for you here on WAER next Saturday. Syracuse men's lacrosse at number 4 North Carolina. That is a 2 p.m. opening face-off, 1:30 McClure Remodeling countdown to face-off. The double overtime runs you up until 5:30. Some thank yous to hand out here this afternoon for our double overtime crew. Our producer, Jason Stilakis, our engineer, Dan Papillo, and our WAER Sports Talk desk, Zach Ventola, Evan Siembia, and Easton Haru. That's going to do it here for Cole and I on the double overtime. Syracuse handles business against Duke. The Orange have won 6 in a row. Enjoy your afternoon.